Hey guys, and welcome to the Boom Bust Show brought to you by the Fantasy Football Advice Network. I'm Corey, and I'm joined by my brother Kyle. We're going to break down some booms and busts at each position for your week one fantasy football matchups. So let's get into it. What do you say, Kyle?
Let's go, man. I'm excited for week one.
Absolutely. Alrighty. So let's get into this really quick. First one that we're going to cover is Aaron Rodgers.
Yes, Aaron Rodgers is my QB boom of the week. Um, Obviously, there aren't a lot of stats to back this up because he hasn't played in Jets yet for the Jets yet. But it's Aaron Rodgers, right? The dude's a stud. Um, Looking, researching for this, I found out he's actually 12-8 on Monday Night Football games in his career,
Mm.
and he's won the last 9 starts on Monday Night Football he's had. Playing against Buffalo, in MetLife. It's Aaron Rodgers. I think he's going to have a great week this week under the bright lights of Monday night.
I agree with you. He seems to shine in those types of situations. Kind of got something to prove, but he's also surrounded by the best weapons that he's had in a long while. Last year he finished as the number 13 quarterback on the season with what? So I think we can expect big things from Aaron Rodgers this year, and then starting off in that primetime game is going to be something special. I have a feeling.
Well, and he'll be on the field a lot too because that defense is gnarly.
Yep.
So
Yep.
he's going to have a lot of opportunity to be out there on the field putting up fantasy points for your fantasy team.
Absolutely agree. And you probably got him really late in your draft, so you got a good value on that. People are overlooking him this year. Would you suspect that he finishes as a QB1 this year? Maybe.
I think he has a real good shot at finishing inside that top 10 this year. Yes.
I agree. I'll be curious to see what kind of chemistry he has with his receivers this week.
That QB position is a very top heavy position.
Yep.
So it's really deep with a lot of really good players, but he definitely has a chance to finish in that top 10 this year.
Yeah, the potential's there for sure.
If you've watched any of HBO's Hard Knocks at all, you can see like he almost seems rejuvenated playing with these guys and Garrett Wilson and stuff. He's back with his old offensive coordinator, so he's excited, and I think he has a very very good year. But this week in particular, I think he comes out ready to go, fresh, week one, new team. I think, yeah, it's going to be a great week for Aaron Rodgers.
Absolutely. Alrighty. So who do you got for your bust of the week at quarterback?
So my bust of the week at quarterback, believe it or not, and I know he just signed a brand new contract, like literally hours before we recorded this, is Joe Burrow at Cleveland. And I know Cleveland didn't necessarily have, the worst defense last year or anything like that. My issue is with Burrow coming back first game, coming off that calf strain. I don't think it's a major issue, but I could see them getting a lead and leaning on that run game to maybe take some of the pressure off of Burrow in this game. And so I think now, obviously, boom bust. This is not to say like if you drafted Joe Burrow, you're most likely going to start him,
Start your studs.
but you're definitely going to want to temper your expectations, I think, this week for even this game.
I think that's fair. How did he do against Cleveland last year?
Well, he's actually 1-4 against them in his career. I can't remember. I think the one was last year. I think the one he won was last year. I can't remember if it's the first or second one now. But yeah, I don't
Not
know
great.
how that's happened. Honestly,
It's Cleveland.
he's got a better O line now than he's ever had. But Cleveland is better than they've ever been.
Yeah.
So maybe they don't get the lead. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they don't get the lead and are able to lean on that run game. But if it goes the way I think it's going to go, the way Joe Burrow and the way this team is built to play, I think they have a real good chance to build a lead and lean on that run game. And they may lean on it regardless of a lead.
That's fair. All right, let's move on to running backs then. Let's cover your boom running back of the week.
Yeah, so my boom running back of the week is going to be J.K. Dobbins. He's playing against Houston, which is amazing. So
Prime matchup.
last year, Houston was last in the league. Defense was ranked last in the league versus running backs. You also look at J.K. Dobbins' production last year when he played. He only played in 9 games. If you extrapolate out his, which is not a perfect science, but if you extrapolate out his stats from those 9 games, he ends up with 173 carries, 982 yards, and 4 touchdowns, which is basically good for 16th in yards, right between Najee and Pollard.
Okay.
But it's only 32nd in carries. So basically, that tells you he was he wasn't a high volume guy, but he was very efficient with the touches he did have. And against a game with one of, if not the worst run defenses in the league, that's something you're going to want on the field for your fantasy team. Now, I will say there is a small caveat here. New head coach, defensive-minded head coach. There may be some improvement on the run game defense this year, but until we see that, even with some improvement, I don't think they're going to be much better than last year. So I still think this is a very, very good matchup on paper for J.K. Dobbins.
I mean, you could want to have a better run defense and coach for that, but you still have to have the players to be able to do it. And also, when you think about the Baltimore Ravens, I understand they're wanting to pass a little bit more this year,
Yep.
but they're also built to run the ball. And just because they want to throw the ball more doesn't mean they're going to. But also, maybe that spreads the offense out a little bit more. They have a better wide receiver core than they've had in the years past. So that might open things up for J.K. Dobbins a little bit more as well. So, yeah, I'm liking J.K. Dobbins. He is a really good running back. I know he's come back off that injury, and his backup, Gus Edwards, also coming back off of an injury. I don't think Gus is really going to take much away from him. I don't think it's much of a threat to his workload, and so I'm liking J.K. Dobbins too. Good pick.
Well, what's nice about J.K., he tore his ACL in 2021. He came back last year. He looked good for a while, but I think they rushed him back a little bit, and so he re-injured and had to take the rest of the season off. Now he's a full year removed from that ACL tear. He had the cleanup procedure. As far as we know, he's fully healthy. When a fully healthy J.K. Dobbins is a very dangerous player.
I agree. Alrighty. Well, let's get to your bust then.
So my bust running back is Najee Harris. And there's a little bit of a carryover from last season because he kind of busted the whole season out last year.
Yeah.
But when you look at the stats for Najee Harris last year versus like a J.K. Dobbins, Najee was kind of the opposite. He was hyper inefficient with his touches. He was, 15th in yards per game. But he was, not per game, 15th in yards overall for the season for running backs. But he was 5th in total carries. And I don't remember what he finished ranking was, but it wasn't good.
Number 14 in PPR.
Yeah, it's not good because he was basically a first-round pick last year.
Yes.
Workhorse running back. Everybody expected him to do much, much better. Put that together with the fact that they're playing San Francisco this week.
Yeah.
They were ranked 1st in yards per game last year, 2nd in rushing yards per game last year. They are the toughest matchup in the league for running backs. You put that inefficiency versus that defense together, and it's a recipe for disaster.
I agree. And I think he's going to concede some workload to Jaylen Warren as well.
I do too, yeah.
So I worry about Jaylen Warren being such a good backup that he'll concede some. Of course, he'll maintain the running back 1 position. He'll be the starter, no doubt about it. But I feel like he's going to give up more than Najee Harris owners are going to be comfortable with.
I agree. They love Jaylen Warren in Pittsburgh. I think you're going to see some 2021 Zeke Pollard vibes going.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Zeke
2022, you saw that split shift a little more towards Pollard.
Right.
In 2021, it was still more Zeke. And so I think you're going to see a very similar type situation in Pittsburgh this year with those two.
I agree. Don't let this photo of Najee that we have up on the screen fool you here. Uh, that's an old one, obviously. Just kidding. All right, let's move into some wide receivers here. So, who you got at your boom for a wide receiver of the week?
Yeah, so my wide receiver boom of the week is Van Jefferson. Digging a little deeper on this one.
Hmm.
Um, they play against Seattle at Seattle. Seattle was 26th in yards per game last year, their defense. Only 13th in pass yards per game, but Cup is out.
Hmm.
No Cooper Cup means Van Jefferson is the de facto number one receiver in this offense, and that is a productive position to be in. Their offensive line isn't fantastic. I have a feeling they're gonna fall behind early, and they're gonna be throwing the ball a lot. So I'm liking some Justin Jefferson in that number one receiver slot for a healthy Matt Stafford coming back and playing this week.
I agree. The only other receiving option they really have is Tyler Higbee. So Higbee may shine a little bit there too, but Van Jefferson had he shined a little bit last year, even
Mm-hmm.
when he had some opportunity. So he's a very capable wide receiver. So stepping up in there with Cooper Cup out, some great opportunity for him here. And people discount how good Matt Stafford is. I mean, he's 2 years
Yeah,
removed from a Super Bowl. I mean, the
yeah,
dude is good. I know he had some elbow issues last year. I haven't heard much about that coming into this year, so maybe Matt Stafford's feeling a little bit better. So, yeah, I'm playing Van Jefferson everywhere I can get him in this week.
yeah. I'm with you. He's definitely had his moments when he's had chances in the past to play, when Cup was out or whatever. But I'm with you on Stafford as well. He had one rough year. The offensive line had some injuries. The team had some issues. He got hurt, and now all of a sudden everybody's forgetting like what a good quarterback he is.
Yes,
And so, yeah, I think there's a pretty good recipe for a big game from Jefferson this week there.
I agree. Alrighty, let's move to your bust wide receiver.
So my bust receiver for the week is Michael Pittman Jr.
Hmm.
with the Colts. They play Jacksonville. Um, Jacksonville is not the most imposing defense against the pass, but my issues are more with one, they've got a new head coach, Shane Steichen, that is everybody expects to lean more run heavy. Now, they don't have Jonathan Taylor. That could change things.
Correct.
But, they don't have a bunch of incapable people, with Zach Moss and Deion Jackson, Evan Hull. They've got people that can help with that run game still and be effective. So they're going to run a little bit heavier. But the other issue I have is also with their new rookie quarterback, Anthony Richardson. And it's not that I don't think he can make throws, down the field to Pittman, but I don't think they're going to ask him to throw a whole lot. He's probably himself going to run quite a bit.
Yep.
And a rookie quarterback in his first game out of the gate, whether the line gives him time or doesn't give him time, might struggle, to make decisions right out of the gate. There's issues there. There's going to be growing pains.
Yep.
I absolutely believe in Anthony Richardson to be their QB of the future for sure.
I think so too.
Franchise quarterback. But right out of the gate, you're asking a lot of him to come out and just crush it right away. And so I don't think that's going to happen. So I'm trying not to play Michael Pittman this week if I have him. If I'm starting any of these Colts receivers this week, it'd probably be Josh Downs, just because he'll be playing more in the slot, shorter routes, safety valve type stuff.
Right.
I would say Jelani Woods if he wasn't hurt. I wouldn't start any other tight ends because they're probably going to mix them all in a little bit. But I would try to stay away from this passing game for a
now.
week or two until Anthony Richardson can kind of get his bearings.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on Richardson. I know that's not who we're talking about here, but it plays into the situation of Michael Pittman, obviously. So, I know you mentioned the new offensive coordinator likes to run. Anthony Richardson's going to be the number one running back in that backfield. They've already said
Mhm.
they're kind of rotating the other three. So Anthony Richardson's going to be your number one quarterback. So I think you're right. I think he's going to get the opportunity to run the ball. They've got an athlete, and they're going to use him. I just have that feeling, right? And Anthony Richardson showed some passing talent in in the preseason, and that will develop. He's got a great coach. He's got a coach that was able to get Jalen Hurts, who people thought was a bad passer. They got him. He got him on the right track there in Philadelphia. Now he's over here going to be working with Anthony Richardson. So it looks really good for the future. Um, but I agree that there's going to be growing pains there. There's going to probably be some second guessing, some slower decision making. Preseason versus an actual game is going to be a little bit different mentally. It just is. And so there's going to be that first game or a couple games to get the feel for that. And I feel like some jitters are going to get there. He's going to pull the ball down and run with it more often than he probably should. Miss some open receivers, miss some passes. Like Pittman might be open, and Richardson might miss those passes to start off. Be a little bit too hyped and overthrow him or something. So, yeah, I agree. Michael Pittman has potential for the season, but I'm avoiding him early on.
Yep.
Cool. Awesome. How about some tight ends? We're fans of tight ends. People always make fun of us for it, but we love the tight end position in fantasy football.
It's my favorite. I
Absolutely.
love finding a good tight end and playing that advantage because if you find a good one, it is absolutely an advantage on your roster.
That's
And
easily the position that kind of it has the biggest sway and advantage in a week, in
it's
my
a
opinion.
differentiating position
It really
because
is.
all the other ones have gotten so deep. And tight end is also very deep, but it's more top heavy than the other
Yes.
positions too. So that elite tier is shallower, even though there are more tight ends that are startable than ever before. Um, but yeah, so hopping into my boom tight end for this week is Gerald Everett
Love it.
versus Miami. So lots of reasons for this one. First of all, he's the only like tight end that the Chargers have that is worth a darn at all. Um, but when you look at Miami's defense, last year they were 18th in yards per game, 27th in points per game. But when you look at how they ranked, they were 29th against tight ends in fantasy points per game last
Mm.
year. So they were bottom four against tight ends last year. That is a perfect recipe. Plus, you add in Kellen Moore, who just came from Dallas, where they
There
like
it
to use
is.
tight ends,
Yep.
right? They like
Yep.
to use tight ends, and they're expected to pick up the pace a little bit on offense, which means more plays, faster plays. I'm expecting a big year for Gerald Everett, but especially in this matchup, I am loving me some Gerald Everett. So if you missed out on Kelsey this week because of the injury, or you're playing someone like my bust who's coming up and need somebody a little bit better this week, then if Gerald Everett's available, which he probably is in a lot of leagues, I know
Somehow totally overlooked this year, which
somehow did not get drafted in a lot of my leagues.
yeah.
Um, go pick him up and play him this week. You won't. You won't be disappointed.
Yeah, one thing you mentioned that to me really stands out is Kellen Moore.
Mm-hmm.
Good. And that's saying something.
Yeah,
Me is much more athletic and much more capable, and I think that that's going to be a recipe for success for Gerald Everett. And again, way overlooked, sitting out there on waivers in most of my leagues. Somehow didn't even get drafted. So if that's the case in your league, go pick him up for this week because I don't think you'll regret it.
absolutely.
Perfect. All right. Now let's get to you kind of hinted at your bust.
Yes,
So let's go
my
ahead and move over to that.
my bust tight end of the week. We'll just say Chiggy Okonkwo because I'm not sure 100% how to say Chigozium Okonkwo, something like
That
that.
worked.
The old Tennessee tight end. I know he has been the conductor of hype train for tight ends this offseason. Everybody's in on him. I
Oh
love him.
Lord.
I think like I think he's going to have a great season. He's very athletic, very good tight end. However, this week he plays New Orleans. They were like, God, they were second fantasy points per game versus tight ends last year. The exact opposite of Miami. They were the second most difficult tight end for fantasy points last year. So not a great matchup. Um, Also, the addition of Hopkins gives you more competition for targets there. They've always been kind of a run-heavy team. The signing of Hopkins kind of tells you maybe they want to shift more towards a pass-happy offense, but we don't know. Even if they do, Hopkins is going to get a significant chunk of targets.
I agree.
So in a game like this, where you're limited on targets and New Orleans knows how to cover the tight ends, I'm not thinking he's going to have a very easy time getting open and scoring fantasy points for your team this week.
I agree. And you mentioned Hopkins and the amount of targets he's going to demand. But I also feel like Traylon Burks is going to take a little bit of a leap this year. He's going to take a
Mhm.
step forward as well. And that's going to demand more targets also. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I feel like Okonkwo is going to, he's not going to, it's not going to be like a season long struggle, but because
Mhm.
of that matchup along with all the other, so it's a total full package there that makes him a bust this week.
Yeah, like you said, for the full season, I love this guy. He's
Yeah,
uber athletic. He's going to make some plays. He's going to have some really really good games. Just not this week.
right, right. Alrighty. So that kind of wraps up our booms and busts there at all the positions. But now we want to give some streaming options to for the kicker and defensive positions. So let's start with the kicker position and give us a good streaming option at kicker this week.
Yeah, so one question we get a lot in our other shows and our chats is what team defense should I stream this week? What kicker can I stream this week? I got a bye, I got an injury, I got a bad matchup or whatever. So we thought this would be a nice little bonus to throw on the end of our boom bus here. So
Love it.
my streaming kicker for the week is Will Lutz against Las Vegas. Las Vegas defense is not good, so they're going to be in position to score quite a bit.
I'm just gonna point something out really quick. You'll notice by the picture, guys, he's wearing a Broncos uniform. Just in case you didn't know, I think that went under the radar that he was
Yeah,
traded to the Broncos. So
yeah,
keep that in mind. He's
yeah.
now
I
with
was
Sean Payton
actually
again.
yeah. So that's what I was about to say. Like he's he's playing with Sean Payton again. When he was playing with him and I know Sean Payton doesn't have anything to do with how your kicker performs,
That's
but
not true.
when he was there and when before last year in New Orleans, Will Lutz was a very efficient, very good kicker. Struggled with some injuries last year, had a bad year, got traded to the Broncos with Sean Payton again. I think this Broncos team has potential to, rebound from a rough 2022. Going to have plenty of opportunities to score points. Vegas is one of the bottom defenses in the league. They'll be in scoring position more frequently than not, probably, and he's kicking in a dome in New Orleans. He's not in the dome at Mile High, but that elevation allows for kicking to be just a touch easier, as we've seen.
Absolutely.
Like most of our records, I think, have been set there.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
there's a lot of things playing in his favor for the season as kind of a sleeper kicker if you missed out on the top guys in your drafts. But
For sure.
for this week, especially in this matchup, um, I think he's a very very good streamer.
Awesome. Alrighty. Let's move to a defense to stream
Yes.
this week.
Last but not least, our streamer defense of the week. Everybody, almost everybody, unless you get like one of the top three defenses, will go pick up a defense off of waivers every week to play. And most people aren't looking at week one matchups when they pick their defense. They just try to pick the best one possible.
Right.
But if nobody in your team was looking ahead to that, then the Washington Commanders defense is probably still on your waiver wire. They're playing Arizona this week. So last year they were third in yards per game, and they were eighth in points per game. This defense is no joke. They are legit, and they're playing against Clayton Tune,
Josh
maybe,
Dobbs, I think,
or
is the
Josh
starter.
Dobbs,
Yeah.
or whoever the coin flip decides is starting at QB for Arizona this week. They're playing against an inexperienced QB on a team with a new head coach, new system, new plays. Give me some of that. Like that's a
I mean, what else do you got to say?
you couldn't ask for a better matchup for week one than Dobbs or Tune with a new head coach, and just they're going to struggle. Arizona is going to struggle. Their best bet is to run the ball, and that is one of Washington's greatest strengths. They were number one against running backs last year against the run. They were the top dogs. They were the only team better against the run than San Francisco last year.
Did we mention it's in Washington?
Yeah, and it's in Washington. Like, they're going to shut these guys down. They're going to shut down Arizona.
Where
So
do I
if
sign up?
they are available in your league, run and grab them and stream them this week.
In fact, I feel like you should probably do that every week for whoever's the streaming defense of the week is probably me whoever's playing Arizona
Whoever's
this year.
playing Arizona, yeah.
Yep, it's going to be one of those kind of seasons for Arizona. That's going to be so bad. All right, guys, that wraps up our boom or bust picks for the week and some streamers there for you. We're Corey and Kyle with the Fantasy Football Advice Network. You can go to fantasyfootballadvice.com. You can get signed up for our online community. It's the only social media network for just fantasy football. You can get on there and interact with other players. You can interact with content creators. You can see their content. You can support your content creators. You can post polls. You can join groups, all kinds of stuff. It's only fantasy football. Get away from all the other distractions and things that just irritate you when you get on social media networks. You can go to fantasyfootballadvice.com and you can enter the word kickoff for 25% off all pro packages. But it is free to join, but use that code kickoff to upgrade and get some other features on the site. And you can interact with us there. Additionally, we have this show here, but we have live shows throughout the week on our YouTube channel. So search Fantasy Football Advice Network on YouTube, and you can see our free interactive shows throughout the week. We stream Sunday mornings. We stream after Monday Night Football, after Thursday Night Football. We're just going all week. So catch us over there and interact with us live and have a lot of fun with us. That's what we're here for, is to help you through the season to win that championship. So again, go to fantasyfootballadvice.com, use code kickoff for 25% off all pro packages. We hope to see you over there and interact with you and build a great fantasy football community. So that's going to wrap up this show. Kyle, thanks for all your picks and your help for this week. And until next week, we'll see you guys.
See you.